The factories still stand. Their smokestacks reach high into the grey North Korean sky, casting long shadows over silent neighborhoods. These structures were once the heart of an economic vision, a socialist future forged in steel, smoke, and self-reliance. Today, they are empty monuments. This is North Korea's Rustbelt, a sprawling expanse of corroded ambition and forgotten labor. In the 1950s and 60s, Kim Il-sung launched a dramatic campaign of industrialization, inspired by Soviet central planning and turbocharged by Chinese revolutionary zeal. Massive state-run factories were erected in the country's northeast, in cities like Hamhung, Chongjin, and Hisan. Hamhung became a showcase of Juche ideology, home to the famous Vinylon complex, which produced a synthetic fiber made from coal and limestone. North Korea called it the Juche fiber, a technological symbol of its supposed economic independence. Chongjin, meanwhile, earned the nickname City of Iron. It boasted steel mills, chemical plants, shipyards, and textile factories, all meant to serve the needs of a self-contained socialist economy. By the early 1970s, over 60% of North Korea's industrial output came from this northeastern belt. Trains carried workers in from all directions. Loudspeakers in the streets barked slogans about duty and production quotas. Propaganda films showed endless rows of smokestacks and proud workers saluting Kim Il-sung. But while the facade stood tall, the foundations were already beginning to rot. Machinery was outdated even by Eastern Bloc standards. Spare parts were hard to come by. Energy supplies were erratic, and productivity consistently fell short of the 5-year plans. By 1985, factory efficiency across the region had dropped to barely 60% of planned targets, but in a state without transparency, failure was never reported, only hidden. Then, in the 1990s, came collapse. When the Soviet Union dissolved, it took with it the generous oil shipments, raw materials, and preferential trade agreements that North Korea's economy quietly depended on. Without fuel, power plants shut down. Without electricity, mines flooded. Without transportation, supply chains snapped. Industrial output fell by more than 75% between 1990 and 1997. The once busy Hamhung Vinylon complex closed its gates. Hyasan's copper mines were abandoned after the pumps failed. Chongjin's furnaces went cold, leaving nothing but rows of rusting metal and skeletal production lines. The northeast, once a banner of Juche pride, became an industrial graveyard. The human cost was catastrophic. During the famine of the mid-1990s, what Pyongyang called the arduous march, the northeast suffered disproportionately. These cities had been built for workers, but there was no longer any work. People starved in concrete apartments designed to house loyal laborers. Entire families disappeared into the forests in search of food. Survivors described towns without light, without heat, and without hope. A few flickers of resistance even broke through the regime's iron grip. In 1988, students in Hamhung staged what would become North Korea's first known political protest. In 2008, female merchants in Chongjin organized demonstrations when the state attempted to shut down informal markets and restrict grain prices. These were rare and short-lived events, but in a country where open dissent is nearly suicidal, they were extraordinary. In recent years, the regime has made scattered attempts to revive these zones. The Hamhung Vinylon complex was partially reopened in 2010 and touted as a success by Kim Jong-il. Yet satellite images reveal empty lots, idle machinery, and decaying infrastructure. The Rustbelt remains rusted. New development efforts, such as the Kimhwa industrial region in the southeast, seem designed to draw attention away from the industrial failures of the past. North Korea's Rustbelt is not just an economic phenomenon. It is the physical evidence of a national ideology that prioritized spectacle over sustainability. It is what happens when a regime builds for image instead of function, when the propaganda must always look strong, even as the steel crumbles. These cities were not just factories, they were dreams. Dreams built on coal, concrete, and command economics. Today they are empty, echoing, forgotten, and rusting quietly behind the curtain.